Vice President Humphrey apparently won most of Ohio's delegates at their caucus, but according to his figures, he doesn't even need them. He claims about 1,600 votes already, or more than enough, to nominate him on the first ballot. But Senator McCarthy is still in there, saying he will not offer Humphrey the vice presidency on the McCarthy ticket because he doubts Humphrey would want the same office again. He did say he would try to find a place for him in his administration. He was asked about this today in Los Angeles at a press conference.
Oh, I really haven't given much thought to that. I'd have an idea. He probably wouldn't be interested in being vice president again. If I could find a place for him in the administration, though, I'm sure.
Whom would you take?
Well, I really haven't said whom I would take. That's the thing you announced the last day of the convention.
When you read these polls or hear about these polls that supposedly Humphrey is pulling away, does this discourage you in any way?
I don't think any show him pulling away. The most recent counts have showed him slipping below what he once had.
You don't get discouraged at all, then?
We're not discouraged. We never would have started, we'd have paid much attention to the polls and the predictions as to what was going to happen.
Do you think he's slipping enough where you...
Oh, I don't getting closer. Well, we're getting closer.
Senator McCarthy, do you think the convention will go past the first ballot?
If there are only two serious candidates, if it's like, generally it's settled on the first ballot if there are only two candidates. If Maddox comes on and picks up some of the southern votes that are now committed to Humphrey, it would complicate it, I think. Better make a third force, and if McGovern had 100 votes or so, it might go to a second ballot.
Are you worried about Wallace at all? Is there any inroads that he's making?
Not particularly. Well, Wallace hurts me less than he hurts anybody else.
McCarthy also said he found the campaign promises being made by Richard Nixon to be irrelevant to the reality of 1968, offering no change from the policies already repudiated by the American people. Senator McGovern, the newest Democratic candidate to declare himself, was in New York looking for the support of some party leaders who were supporting Robert Kennedy, but who, since his death, have remained uncommitted. Chet?
Richard Nixon called Governor Nelson Rockefeller and New York City Mayor John Lindsay by telephone from San Diego today. A Nixon aide said both agreed to support the Nixon-Agnew ticket most enthusiastically. A group of civil rights leaders in Baltimore last night attacked the two Republican candidates' records on civil rights. The Nixon camp said the attack was politically motivated. But in his opening campaign trip in California, Agnew seemed determined to show he's a moderate on civil rights. NBC News correspondent John Dancy covered the trip, which started with a news conference in San Francisco.
I don't believe looters should ever be shot unless they attempt to escape arrest. Now, if they're running from arrest, there's no way for that policeman to show or know whether they've committed a simple looting or whether they've killed a storekeeper inside or taken some other serious crime in hand. And therefore, it's important, I think, that the policeman use the degree of force that he thinks is necessary. That doesn't necessarily mean shooting, but he has to stop that man because he doesn't know what kind of lawlessness has been committed. That's a police professional judgment to be made on the spot.
The first object of Governor Agnew's first appearance in this campaign was to clarify his position on civil rights. Agnew was hurriedly added to the program of a Portuguese-American centennial dinner in San Francisco, an audience calculated to be friendly and receptive, since Agnew's father was also foreign-born.
Thank you very much.
In his speech, Agnew attacked charges that he is anti-civil rights.
I am unalterably dedicated to the concept that if our Constitution is not to be meaningless, we must have civil rights. This means equality of educational opportunity, of employment opportunity. This means the right of any person, regardless of his race, creed, or color, to buy a home any place he desires to buy it and to live in peace and harmony with his neighbors. This means the right, if citizen grievances arise, to demonstrate in a peaceful and lawful manner, to picket, to complain to the government. All of these things I am unalterably for. My record shows it. I've supported this type of legislation during my public career, but I will not, and I will never support, condone, rationalize, or in any way justify those who take the law in their own hands and interfere with the broad civil right of their neighbors to enjoy this country as our forefathers envisioned. So what I'm saying is that you can't leave it up to the individual to decide which laws should be obeyed and which can be broken.
The Huntley-Brinkley Report is produced by NBC News and brought to you in color by
Anacin, with the specific compound that relaxes tension as it relieves headache pain. Reach for Anacin. Up and down, all day long, over and over. Do you know that the average mother lifts almost a ton of weight every single day? No wonder you end up with a backache so often. For this muscular low back pain, doctors usually prescribe the compound in Anacin. Anacin relieves low back pain to relax tense muscles. Anacin.
Look out! Here it comes! Wow! What's happening?
It's Super Shine Aero Wax. Rolls on wall-to-wall plastic shine.
It's beautiful, but will it last?
You bet. Aerowax has so much plastic, it gives you wall-to-wall protection, too. I may not have to wax again for weeks.
For weeks?
With my active family, it's the only wax.
Super Shine Aerowax for wall-to-wall plastic shine, wall-to-wall plastic protection.
Greek Premier Papadopoulos escaped injury today when a bomb exploded in front of his car on a coastal road near Athens. A suspect was captured. Walter Ulbricht, the East German Communist Party leader, returned to East Berlin today from Czechoslovakia. But before leaving, he conceded to newsmen that the Czechoslovaks' liberal reforms are historically important. NBC News correspondent Garrick Utley reports on Ulbricht's visit.
There were no cheers for Walter Ulbricht when the East German leader arrived in Karlovy Vary for talks with Czechoslovak communist rulers headed by Alexander Dubček. Ulbricht, the last of the tough Stalinists, has been the main opponent of Czechoslovakia's reform program. This meeting is one of several Czechoslovakia is holding with its communist allies. The purpose is to reassure them of Czechoslovakia's loyalty and settle any problems that exist. For Dubček, the meetings are a good chance to explain Czechoslovakia's liberalization drive to communist skeptics. For 7 months, Dubček has guided the reform program and has come under bitter attack. But he and his program have survived, although Dubček has lost 28 pounds in the process. If the pressure has eased considerably, the workload has not. While meeting with other communist leaders in the next 2 weeks, Dubček is also busy preparing for next month's Communist Party Congress. At it, statutes defining the scope of Czechoslovakia's democratic communism will be passed, and the last of the old-line communist officials will be removed from power. Only then will Dubček know that he and his new brand of communism have won out. Garrick Utley, NBC News, Karlovy Vary.
A bitter two-day fight in the Mekong Delta ended today when a Viet Cong battalion fell back before an assault by units of the United States 9th Infantry Division. Losses were high. Enemy dead totaled more than 100. The Americans suffered 15 killed and 30 wounded. Northwest of Saigon, troops of the American 25th Infantry Division ambushed 25 Viet Cong and killed 10. There were no American casualties. David?
When the American ship Pueblo was seized, President Johnson called up more military reserve units. Others have been called since, as the American military in Vietnam has been constantly expanded. Some of the reservists feel they are being abused, that the president has no right to call them when legally the country is not at war. And some have gone to court to argue this point. A federal judge in Baltimore has turned them down, but now they say they will appeal to the Supreme Court. Here's a report from NBC News correspondent Robert Gorolski.
The U.S. Army's 1002nd Supply and Service Company of Cleveland was one of 88 military reserve units called to active duty last April. About 25,000 men were forced to leave their families and jobs in the wake of a further buildup in Vietnam. Many of them don't understand why. There have been complaints about doing nothing, serving no useful function, and in the process damaging the military reserve's potential as an emergency force. 113 men of this company decided to do something about their call-up. They went to court to fight the U.S. government. The case is based on the fact they joined the reserves with contracts agreeing to be activated only in time of war or a national emergency. No such condition now exists. The men of the company who initiated the court fight say their training is inadequate, but they've been engaged in such non-military duties as planting flowers and building parking lots. Of late, however, the company has been doing more. Despite a schedule of firing automatic weapons and moving closer to a condition of combat readiness, the men are unhappy. Above all, they want to go home. That's now unlikely. Now they have mixed feelings about what the Army has in store for them.
Most of the men do not believe that the war in Vietnam is right. And consequently, they are not motivated to work extremely hard and so forth to achieve the mission. They do the work, but not highly motivated.
I know a lot of the men have feelings on the war in Vietnam, both pro and con, but I don't think that has anything to do with the lawsuit.
As far as Vietnam is concerned, I'm not quite sure that we would be able to function as well as has been expected by some of our the higher echelon as far as the Army is concerned.
They talk about Vietnam, and if we go over there, I don't know if we're going to go over there, but I feel this way. If you're going to go over there, everybody down deep inside has fears of going over there. But I think that once you're there, you don't have time to be afraid, and I think that the company will function. There's no such thing as this company won't function as a unit. I don't believe it.
Even with the action taken, we're continuing on just like we would have. This is a matter for the courts. This is not a matter for the company. And we'll just do what we're supposed to do, and we'll get it done.
What about morale, Captain?
Well, morale, these people don't put in a petition if the morale isn't a certain point. I think that's a legal morale problem there, but as far as the people working together, they have their small problems, but they're okay. They're okay.
This is not the only case of its kind. There have been other cases of reservists recalled to active duty who are going to the courts for redress of what they consider their grievances. But it is symptomatic of widespread discontent, not only of this one unit of the Army, or as the Army as a whole, but rather in the country. There are many military old-timers who said it could never happen with men in uniform. But it has, and it should cause a lot of people a lot of worry. Robert Gorelski, NBC News at Fort Meade, Maryland.
You make out better, Pell-Mell Gold. Better at both ends, Pell-Mell Gold. No matter what you've been smoking, no matter what you've been told, you make out better at both ends with a big tip, Pell-Mell Gold.
If you shortened your cigarette like this, obviously you'd get less flavor. Shorten the filter, less mildness. But if you did what Pell-Mell Gold does, add more tobacco for more flavor, a longer filter for a milder taste, you'd make out better at both ends. Better than with any other cigarette.
No matter what you've been smoking, no matter what you've been told, you make out better at both ends with the big tip, Pell-Mell Gold.
Or Pell-Mell Menthol.
There was a fourth night of racial disturbance in Little Rock, Arkansas. Police cars were fired upon and 11 people were arrested. In Chicago Heights, Illinois, police used tear gas to drive looters from a burning clothing store. Extra riot police today were withdrawn from the Watts section of Los Angeles, where 3 people were killed and 48 injured the night before. But there was continuing debate that the size of the riot force, 2,000 police, had crippled police-community relations. Contributing editor Jack Perkins reports.
Last January, in a mountain retreat outside Los Angeles, high-ranking Los Angeles police officers gathered to discuss improving their department's community relations. Many of the problems they recognized were in the black community, so much of the meeting was about that. Not just how to arrest people, but how to get along with them.
We're going to put people in jail when they commit crimes. But we're not going to put people in jail or insult their dignity when they have not committed a crime.
Out of that meeting in January came several changes for the police department. Officers who had been in cruisers before were taken out and put on the beat to walk among the people, to get to know them and their problems, and to let the people meet and know them.
Kind of idea in this area.
Why would you
They
call
sent officers into schools to show a friendly face to the young people.
You had a big stack of letters to be mailed. Who would you ask to mail them for you? Postman? Okay, so when you have a question about the police department, who do you ask? Policeman?
Hi there, fella.
All of this, and inviting children to climb around the scout cars, was a conscious attempt at image changing. The police officer should be seen as a friend, to be trusted and respected. It's the idea of a man considered one of the better modern police chiefs, L.A. Police Chief Tom Redden.
I don't think that police departments should give in to pressure, and I do not think that they should become softer where lawlessness is concerned. But you have to have both types of programs. You have to have the programs that are designed to ease tensions and provide cures and make things better in the community. And even the most conservative would have to agree that this is important. But in addition to that, you have to have a very firm, hard line against lawlessness. There can be no compromise with principle. There can be no compromise with law breaking. Now, there are those who say you can't have both types of programs. But that's exactly what we have in the city of Los Angeles, and that's exactly what we'll continue to have. And in the long run, we feel that this is the only approach that will work, and the basic velvet glove and the mailed fist.
There are times, of course, when there is more mailed fist than velvet glove, like this past week in Watts. Saturation policing, Chief Redden called it. Harassment and massive overreaction, black leaders called it. Chief Redden wanted to stop deadly disorders, and he did. But to many blacks, police officers seemed overzealous, less like friends to be trusted than like an invading army. Much that may have been done was undone this week.
I would say that probably human relations efforts have been set back by what took place both last week and this week.
We are no longer mesmerized by the polished appearance, the soft-selling platitudes of the chief of police of this city. The police are considered in the black and brown community as biased, unsympathetic, and racist, and no longer have they ever been sympathetic to our needs.
Chief Redden promises to continue his department's community relations efforts despite the setbacks of the past week, but there are black leaders like Bremond who feel it's hardly worth it. Despite Chief Redden's words and a few policemen visiting schools and children climbing over scout cars, they feel that to the black man, the policeman is still what he has always been, the enemy.
When a virus cold hits you, your world can't stop. To keep going, you take aspirin for headache, an antihistamine for runny nose, and a decongestant for stuffiness. But not all three of these medications are concentrated in Dristan tablets. So when you can't stop, Dristan helps keep you going.
Honey, I don't know how you do it. And with a virus cold.
Oh, I feel all right now.
Do everything you can do for relief of virus cold miseries, and take Dristan tablets.
The Huntley Brinkley Report continues. Brought to you by New Secret. Now with extra protective ingredients to give you better protection.
Oh, you have it.
Have what?
Your old secret deodorant spray. I'm collecting it. Mind?
We're not giving up secrets.
Not even for new extra power secret.
Is this different from other deodorants?
It's practically in a class by itself. Lots more protective ingredients give New Secret extra power.
We could use the protection, dear.
New Secret has lots more protective ingredients. Try some.
Mrs. Virginia Johnson, the first woman to try to become governor of Arkansas, today faced State Representative Marion H. Crank in a runoff primary election for the Democratic nomination. The voter turnout was light. In Chicago, where the Democratic National Convention opens on August 26th, A number of militant groups are preparing to protest almost anything the Democrats have in mind. Here is a report from NBC News correspondent Floyd Kalber.
The largest protest group has been using a downtown Chicago office for months to plan its demonstrations at the convention. The National Mobilization to End the Vietnam War is a coalition of 100 peace and civil rights groups. They've been sending out mailings, arranging housing, and scheduling marches and teach-ins for as many as 100,000 demonstrators, according to some estimates. Spokesman for the group is its chairman, Liberation magazine editor David Dellinger.
Community. Our position is that whoever the candidates are and whatever the platforms, that we must stay in the streets and stay in active resistance, or else there will be no peace, either in the ghettos or in Vietnam. It is not our intention or plan, our aim in any way, to obstruct the convention or to prevent the delegates from going in or coming out. That's not what we're here for. But we intend nonetheless to make our presence dramatically and militantly felt. We expect to march to the convention. We expect to picket the loop at a certain time in order to welcome the delegates and to remind them of our program and of the insistence of the American people that the war must come to an end.
The first of the anti-war demonstrations leading up to the convention was held last Saturday. About 1,500 people joined in. They were orderly and unhampered by police. The march ended with a rally at which Dellinger said his group has secured housing for 30,000 to 40,000 demonstrators during convention week. In addition, the city has been asked to permit camping in various parks, but there's no decision on this request as yet. Another convention protest group asking for camping privileges is the Youth International Party, otherwise known as the Yippies. The Yippies urge that the Democratic Convention be freaked out, and they say they will nominate their own candidate for president, a pig named Pegasus. Their spokesman, Abraham Peck, says the park camp-in will take place whether or not a city permit is obtained.
Given the fact that this party has, for the last 8 years, made life and death decisions in complete disregard of the beliefs of unrepresented and exploited people, those resubmitting the permit hereby declare that they will attempt, by their presence in Chicago, to inform America and the world of a youth renaissance and the corruption of an outmoded society. They call upon all those who deem change necessary to lend their support by their presence in Chicago. Do not come to Chicago if you are prepared for no more than a 5-day festival of life, music, and love.
While authorities know the plans of some of the protest groups, they're also preparing for outbreaks of unpredictable disturbances during the convention. A half-mile-long chain-link fence topped with barbed wire has been erected at the main entrance of the International Amphitheater. There are now, and there will be many more, police officers at every entrance, letting in only the electrical, telephone, and construction workers necessary to get the hall ready for the delegates. Some reports say 25% of the spectators during the convention will be FBI or Secret Service agents. Police don't like to talk about their security details, but it's known that some 8,000 officers will be deployed in the hall or at Chicago hotels housing the delegates. All doors along the opposite side of the hall from the fence are and will be padlocked shut. And just 2 blocks away from these doors is a park reserved for nearly 6,000 National Guardsmen to spend each night of the convention, if necessary, participating in what are called routine drills. Another large area that looks like a park also figures in the security plans. It's the recreation yard of the Cook County Jail, and police say it will be available in case of any mass arrests. They estimate it will hold 10,000 prisoners. Floyd Kalber, NBC News, Chicago.
Beautiful woman, isn't she? Know what? She wears dentures, but she treats them like teeth, because to her, her dentures are her teeth. She wouldn't soak her dentures. First of all, she wouldn't part with her teeth for that long. She brushes with denture cream. It's faster, easier than soaking, sure. But best of all, denture cream out-cleans a soak. I'll show you. We soaked that heavy lipstick stain. Soaked it all night in the leading tablet cleanser, and look. Even with soaking and vigorous brushing, that denture material is still stained. Now Denture Cream, the powerful toothpaste made for dentures. Denture Cream scrubs, brushes, polishes dentures clean. Does it all 1, 2, 3. See? Denture Cream does outclean the soak. And it leaves your mouth toothpaste fresh. Are your dentures your teeth? Then treat them like teeth.
Pilots for Air France, Alitalia, and Swiss Air said today they will not fly to Algeria until that country releases the crew of an Israeli airliner diverted to Algiers on a flight from Rome to Tel Aviv last month. Prices rose again today on the New York Stock Exchange. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 3 2/3 points, and the value of an average share of common stock increased 22 cents. David?
The Wisconsin chairman of the McCarthy for President Committee was in today with a complaint, and others like it have been heard before. He said he could get no information from the Democratic National Committee about what is being planned for the Chicago Convention, couldn't get any visitors' passes for their friends and contributors, and in general couldn't get anything. The National Committee denied it, but in spite of its denials, the fact is that all the convention arrangements are being made in secrecy. And if McCarthy can't find out anything, he is not alone. The same complaint has been heard from other places. It appears that Chicago's Mayor Daley, President Johnson, and nobody knows who else, are themselves planning everything down to and almost including the price of the hot dogs and telling nobody. The delegations from the 50 states have not yet been told even where they will sit. No candidate knows yet how many tickets he will have or when. It is widely assumed the president is planning everything himself the way he wants it and will tell the candidates what is going to happen when he is ready. Good night, Chet.
Good night, David, and good night for NBC News.
Having problems with your daughter's boyfriend? Send him back to his family. All you need is some Mystic package sealing tape. Have trouble keeping your socks up? You wouldn't if you used Mystic clear tape. Do your straight lines look like straight lines? They would if you used Mystic masking tape. Have a note you don't want overlooked? Use Mystic plastic-coated cloth tape. It comes in 14 colors. For other problems, other solutions, all with the name Mystic.
I couldn't get through the day without coffee. Creamy coffee. But who uses cream anymore? I use Cremora, the instant non-dairy creamer from Borden. Gives my coffee golden color and the flavor of cream. With only 11 calories a level teaspoon. Stir in Cremora and never miss the cream. Cremora from Borden.